Hey there, I'm Abby Huntsman. Welcome to HuffPost Live. Joining me on the couch is my co-host, Mark Lamont Hill. Welcome.
Hello.
So we are talking about people that get married, not even get married, but people that date or get married, break up sometimes a number of times,
yes,
and get back together.
I don't understand.
And this really was ignited from a Huffington Post article about a couple tying the knot and then 48 years later getting back together.
Oh.
Is that... I mean, you say that's cute, but then you think, is that a little bit crazy? Why go through the marriage again if, you know, you're 80-something years old? Like, just move in together and have fun.
I know.
Let's not pay for a wedding.
I think it's kind of cute.
I don't know.
48 years later is different.
Well, we have a great community to talk more about this. So let me introduce you guys to the Google Hangout. We have Natasha Burton, HuffPost blogger for weddings and divorce, and Kelly McMiniman. I think that's Patrick,
Hello.
our
Hi.
super producer extraordinaire sister. And on the phone we have Ed Housewright. Welcome, you guys.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Yes,
so, Kelly, I want to start with you because obviously, you know, Patrick has talked so much about you in the office here at HuffPost Live.
All good things,
and he's told
I'm
us
sure.
about your friends, and I want to hear about their story, about breaking up, getting back together, and what happened.
So I think they were in the early 20s working together down in D.C., and she broke up with him, I think, because he was the intern. I can't remember. So she was kind of a little bit older and not the intern. And so maybe she wanted somebody more professional. I can't remember why she dumped him, but she did. And then he convinced her to get back together with him. And then they dated for a while. And then he dumped her. And I think he told her that he was 87% sure he did not want to marry her. And that's why he was breaking up with her.
I'm sorry, did you say 87%?
Yes. I remember
right.
87.
So 13% he wanted
90.
to.
Right.
So yes,
89.
87% sure, and then he convinced her to get back together, and now they're married, have 2 kids, really happy, really a great couple. So for me, they're always the example of why you can get back together with your ex and have it work. And you know, I kind of wonder if maybe it was just timing, because most of the breakups have happened in their 20s, and maybe they just weren't kind of mature enough yet, and they hit their 30s, and then we're kind of ready to settle down and recognize this was their best friend. And
I don't know though. I feel like if you're not sure a couple of times, like, isn't that a sign? Isn't that a sign of like, okay, you know, maybe you're not the girl of my dreams or the guy of my dreams, and I'm going to go out and look for something better, and maybe you don't find that better person, so you go back to what's comfortable or what you think works.
I mean, it could be that, but I think another thing really is kind of age and timing. My husband and I went to Columbia together. I never found him attractive. He was a good friend of mine.
Seriously?
I should say,
Wow.
an acquaintance. And he never found me attractive either. You know, we knew each other, hung out all the time. But 13 years later at his sister's wedding, we basically got together. And it wasn't that I didn't see him over those 13 years. I mean, I saw him once or twice a year. So I think it was really just that we were both at a point where we were mature enough to, I don't know, have more than a beer conversation or, you know.
I'm just
so I think
curious.
sometimes it's timing.
I'm just curious. What did you find attractive about him 13 years later that you didn't before? What did you
And don't say his personality.
Right.
Well, truthfully, a year before the wedding, his sister had her 30th birthday in Nantucket at her husband-to-be's house, and he took off his shirt and he was ripped. And I always said he was kind of chubby.
Oh, so it was the body.
I wasn't really sure. So, you know what? I think I just cut that in the back of my head. So at the wedding, when he was hitting on me, I remember thinking, like, well, worse things could happen than, like, ending up with a guy who looks like that with his shirt off. There's other things I like about him now, but...
Well, Natasha, you actually have personally experienced this. Your parents got married, divorced, back together. When you look at this cute couple that's in their 80s, do you think, like, this is kind of crazy, or... hey, it's kind of cute. I've experienced it myself, that my parents are happy.
Well, I mean, it's a little different with my parents only because it's my dad and my stepmom. So they got together, they got married. I think were married for about 3 years, divorced, got back together, but didn't get married, broke up, and then got back together and got married and said, okay, this is it. And the way that I've kind of come to look at it is that I really respect them for working through the issues that they had and really making that commitment to each other. I think that, you know, in the case of this older couple, it was more a matter of, you know, we're older, all the problems that we would have had when we were in our 20s, like, obviously they don't have them anymore because it's like 50 years later. You know, what problems can we really have?
Yeah, you can have problems when you're old.
I mean, you can have problems when you're old, but I feel like a lot of that kind of stress and stuff and working and balancing, like that kind of goes away. And I think that having this common bond of their children is obviously a great kind of perk to getting back together. It's almost like they didn't know each other anymore. It was like they're meeting again for the first time in this different life space.
Well, Ed, can you hear me? Are you on the phone?
Yes.
So all the girls seem to be kind of mushy, like, oh, it's so cute. But you wrote a blog about how couples should not get back together. So can you please talk some sense into all three of us here?
Yes, I'll be glad to talk some sense into you. It's a dumb idea. It's a stupid idea. I mean, if you've been with somebody once and, for an extended period of time and didn't work, why would you think it would work another time? And I can see one person putting on a good act like, you do in dating and, show your best side, but that doesn't last, and once, you're down the road in the marriage, the real person is going to come back. And, I'm just saying if you're incompatible in a marriage the first time, you're going to be incompatible another time.
But what if the things that made someone incompatible change? Sometimes people's character develops, sometimes people's circumstance changes. For example, if you're married to someone who has a busy lifestyle and they just don't put the marriage first, they could mature, they could grow, and they could change their job. What do you say then?
Intellectually, I think that's possible. I would never do it myself, and I think that's unlikely. I can see, that could happen. Nothing's impossible, but I think that's, a relationship is more than just about, one aspect. There's rarely one problem in a marriage, I think.
What's that?
I'm sorry?
I said, what is that?
He said there's rarely one problem.
Oh, rarely one problem. I thought you said there's only one problem. I said, what the hell is that then?
She's like, oh. She's looking for it.
But Natasha, I mean, you were nodding your head when Ed was speaking.
But I mean, if say one person was an alcoholic and they're no longer an alcoholic or it's under control.
Well, but you could no longer not be an alcoholic.
Maybe that's okay. But it
just
seems
to put
like
that out there. Sorry.
Recovery.
Natasha, jump. Go ahead.
But
I'm just going to jump in. When you're talking about people changing jobs and kind of having that. That different lifestyle and changing things, that's exactly what happened with my parents. My dad was owning and running his own restaurant. He was working, hours beyond belief and not really making any money. And so that was a really big strain on his and my stepmom's marriage.
So Mark's example was exactly what your parents experienced.
Yeah. Yeah, they actually, after they divorced and got back together for the first time, they moved to Georgia from Southern California. And they, moved into this kind of rural area and, kind of completely reinvented their lives. They now live on a lake and go boating every day. And, their lifestyle is a lot less stressful. And it's a lot less, hectic for them. I mean, they spend time together. They, drink wine together. They have that quality time to spend. And I think that because they didn't have that in the beginning of their relationship, that's really what caused them to break up. And now that they're around each other all the time, they couldn't be happier. So
I want to show you guys, if we can pull up in the control room, the bottom of the original article, there were some responses via tweets. And it seems like the majority of them are saying, like, you shouldn't get back together. I'll read you a couple. This is from Jeff Myers. He says, is this a trick question? Never. The next one is, this one I love. This is from Bevins10. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, you can't get fooled again. So I don't know. Quoting George W. Bush, there obviously. What's that?
I think there's some merit to this idea that your lifestyle changes or you mature, but still I think it's a bad idea. A relationship I don't think is based on one or two things that you can change. There's your whole personality, your values. Unless you're just going to go through a personality transformation, I'm still down.
I've never known anyone to really change, though. Have you?
Yeah,
I mean, you are who you are.
Yeah, true, but I think sometimes that argument presumes that people break up for the right reasons, too.
Right.
Sometimes people break up because they're young and immature and they don't realize that all relationships are going to have struggle. All relationships are going to need work. And you may get older and play the field for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years and say, you know what I had back then was actually...
It's actually better than I thought.
Yeah. And
Mark, you have a heart, actually. I love this. I'm so glad you joined me on the couch today.
But But I think it's basically, when you think about it, more than it's about, when I was talking about timing, it's like you have to have enough time go by to have changed. So most people really want to get back with the person when they still are pining away for them. And that's usually 6 months, a year, sometimes 2 years, depending on how long it takes you to get over being dumped or, you know, breaking up. But, you know, within 1 to 2 years, it's kind of hard to change your personality or get over things. But, you know, 3, 4, 5 years, then that person really could be a different person or have a different job or a different situation.
Kelly, did you find that your friends changed during that period of time when they broke up, got back together? Did anything really change, or was it really just about their lifestyles and about timing more than anything else?
For them, I think it was lifestyle and timing, because I remember at the time I thought he was so much younger than us, and he's actually a year younger than us, which when you're 24, you're like, oh my God.
And for a guy, that's like 18 years old.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, nobody wants to be serious with somebody. He's an intern. He's, you know, basically 18, you know, but you reach your 30s or late 20s and 1 year doesn't seem as big as it does, you know, when you're a little bit younger.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, Natasha, are you married?
No, I'm not. I have a boyfriend. We've been living together for about 2 years.
I mean, after your experience, I mean, are you totally against it, or are you just kind of open to whatever happens in love? You just follow your heart, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, you know, all these studies, and of course, working on the divorce section here, you know, I read all this stuff about divorce constantly. And, you know, you see these studies about how children of divorce are very, you know, less apt to trust a partner. They're more apt to create problems where none exist because we're so kind of used to instability, presumably. But I think what I've seen from, you know, my dad and my stepmom in particular, of being able to really transcend their problems and work through it. It's not like it was easy, that they were like, oh yeah, we're just going to get back together. It was hard. They went through counseling. They talked to each other. They had to really set like what the parameters were going to be in their relationship.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it was a lot of work.
Ed, I mean, Ed, you've been divorced twice. Is it just that you're bad at it, you think?
Yeah. Believe me, I thought about that. Is it me or the women? You know, most likely I'm a good part of the failure. So, you know, I don't think I'm a bad guy. I think maybe some people are just not good at long-term relationships. And
so maybe marriage is not in the cards for you when you're 80 years old.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I mean, just because you're not marriage material doesn't mean you can't have, you know, a good social life and good dating relationships and even maybe a living relationship. But, you know, I'm 53 and, you know, if I failed twice, I don't think I really want to do it again.
I think what we're finding is, like, everyone does it differently. You know, and you can't judge any relationship. I mean, and there's so many different types of love. Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously, I love you, Mark, in a friendship sort of way, but really, everyone does it differently. And if people break up, get back together, it's like it's not our place to necessarily judge.
That's what I say. Everyone has their own experience. Everyone has to find their own happiness, and different people find different ways to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Right, and I think you can be a couple, a committed couple, and not be married and have no intention of being married. And you know, some people think that's bizarre and strange. Well, if they're in love, why don't they get married? Well,
Ed, maybe I'd recommend just like dating the next one and maybe moving in together. Before you pull out the ring. I don't know, though. Like we said, people can change. It is possible.
I think Ed can change. Ed, I really think that maybe in 10 years you'll go back to wife number one. It may all work out.
And we'll have you come back on and talk about it.
Only if a gun were pointed at my head. That's the only way I'd do it.
Wow.
Well, Kelly, Natasha, and Ed, thank you guys all for coming on. I loved all of your perspectives, and Mark, as always, it's great having you on the couch.
This is mine.
So the conversation will always continue on HuffPost Live. Leave your comments in the resource well. See, we have a bunch of fun articles on there. The conversation will continue. Stay tuned.